Hello and welcome to the Everyday Tarot podcast, where I'm making tarot accessible and intuitive for everyone. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, your hallowed High Priestess, tarot reader, and professional witch, and today I'm talking about tarot for Cancer season. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every Monday to check out the latest episode. If you're enjoying the Everyday Tarot and want to go deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Everyday Tarot Circle and community on Patreon. For $33 a month, you'll get exclusive tarot content like live access to New Moon Collective Tarot readings I do, get to meet other listeners in our members only chat, get access to bonus resources like tarot card crafting workshop and tarot spreads I'm sharing, and a chance to help shape the future of the podcast. Your support helps keep the show free and accessible for everyone. You can join through the link in the show notes. If you can't commit to $33 a month, but you really want to perhaps get a reading from me, right now I am offering pay what you can tarot readings for the next month. You can get a 30-minute virtual video reading with me where afterwards I send you a full write-up of the cards, themes we discussed, and images of the cards I pulled during the reading. And I would love to see you there. And of course, if you don't have the funds or can't commit to a longer term membership, you can always support me and the podcast for free by listening, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. Joining my newsletter list where you can get the most up-to-date info on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life, or filling out my guest inquiry form if you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or for free on Patreon, in addition to the images of the cards I pull for each episode. All right, so let's get into our main discussion because today I am talking about tarot for Cancer season. So, the Cancer zodiac sign, Cancer is known as the nurturer, ruled by the moon, and the glyph or image associated with the Cancer zodiac sign looks like the claws of a crab, which that one I knew, but I didn't know this, or a woman's breasts is what they have said. So we'll get into more of like why that is, but Cancer season in 2026. Cancer season in 2026 begins on Sunday, June 21st, which is also the summer solstice, and it runs until Wednesday, July 22nd, which is when the sun shifts into Leo this year in 2026. Zodiac seasons change slightly every year, but they're usually around within a couple days of each other as they go out. So, okay, so yeah, Cancer season for now starts June 21st through again July 22nd. All right, so let's get into the zodiac houses. So, Cancer is associated with the fourth house. Its rulership is motherhood, home, and family. The ruling sign, again, of Cancer is the crab, associated with protection and nurturing. And its ruling planet is the moon, which is the orb of reflection and feminine cycles. So I'm going to be pulling most of our information today from this book, Tarot and Astrology by Corinne Kenner, with the subtitle Enhance Your Readings with the Wisdom of the Zodiac. And you can tell I have all my tabs here. So I use this book for most of our astrology episodes because it has all of the card correspondences with both all the major arcana cards, minor, and the court cards. I also recently got this book, which is called The Basics of Astrology by Ove H. Sehested, Volume 2, which talks about chart interpretation. It is an older book or, vintage. I think it was first published in, like, this one is copyright 1973. So it is not new by any means, but I just really like its comprehensive and easy to understand introduction to astrology, right? The basics of astrology here. So I'll give you a little bit more info on Cancer as a sign before we move into more of the cards associations. So Cancer is, like we talked about, is a cardinal water, and it's the fourth sign, or like in the zodiac year. So the zodiac year starts with Aries. um, and we go Aries as the fire sign, um, Taurus as an earth sign, Gemini as an air sign, and now we are in the fourth sign, which is Cancer as a water sign. And again, it is ruled by the moon and generally shows up in the zodiac year around June 20th to July 20th, right? This year, where it's a couple of days behind that. So in this book, they talk about that the first thing to know is that there's no relation between the sign Cancer and the dreaded disease of the same name. There just happens to be an unfortunate similarity in the names. Cancer simply means crab in Latin, and the crab of Cancer was its symbol long before people began sort of dividing, like talking about cancer as a disease. It's hypothesized that the faintly crab-like structure of some of the visible features of the disease may have given cancer the disease its name. So again, interestingly, the zodiac sign association came before our understanding of cancer as a disease. All right, it says there seems to be just enough doubt in the uninitiated public's mind about this that certain writers of popular astrology, at least at the time, they talk about, wouldn't mention the name of Cancer, but would use the term moon children, because Cancer is ruled by the planet of the moon, which is obviously not a planet, but another celestial body. Let's see. So yeah, the qualities of Cancer that we talked about earlier are, so there's the cardinal, which is like the cardinal, fixed, or mutable. Those are the options. And then we have the element, so like water, fire, earth, air. And then we have kind of so the cardinal aspect of it. So Cancer is the first water sign we come to, right, in the astrological year, starting with Aries. So we've gone through all the other elements. Cancer as the fourth zodiac sign is the first water sign that we come to. It says, so we can expect Cancer to forcibly express, which is the sort of trait associated with cardinal signs, with emotion and feeling, which is associated with water. And again, just like water is associated with the cups card and tarot. The moon is the ruler of Cancer, which was talked about earlier in this book, at least, represents the female in the chart, mother or perhaps wife. It says this in turn tends to focus the attention on the home environment. The Cancer nature is very much involved with the home. And I would say that, this was from the 70s, so there's definitely some interesting language and choices in here that I don't know if I totally agree with, but again, Cancer is usually associated with kind of like inner, which could, again, in sort of the material world, be the inner aspect of our home. The glyph, which again, I would say sort of loosely looks like a crab. It's like, it looks like 69 on its side. Is usually how it's depicted. The glyph, it says, is suggestive of a pair of breasts, which along with the stomach is ruled by Cancer. And with those traits, often it makes us think of kind of like maternal care, nursing from the breast. The word care may be taken in a broader sense too. If we care about something, we have feelings about it. Feeling is the emotion, of course, in which is the essence of the water element. And again, this is not to imply that only women are born under Cancer or that men of the sign are soft or effeminate. Far from it. So they sort of talk about in here this, like, that we have the idea of like the maternal woman, this nurturer, mothering, and then kind of on the sort of like divine masculine side would be how I would speak about it. You have the sort of protective man. And so in here they say, like, when we see that in these two ways of exhibiting femininity and masculinity in their, let's say, like less toxic um in the idea that we have both parts and all of it within ourselves. So that would perhaps look like, says a man who loves his home will go any lengths to protect it. He would rather be at home, perhaps working with his stamp collection, than anywhere else. And collecting, incidentally, is another Cancer trait. And then it says if we extend the feeling for the home to a sort of broader base, that might be seen as like our country or our like what we our county, our state, our sort of like level, our neighborhood, our local area, right? That again, there's sort of this idea that some signs are about a very broad humanity sense. Cancer sign is a bit more about like the local for yourself. Um, they're also, again, with Cancer's association with the moon, we have this when we think about the moon, right? As we watch it in the sky, we see that over a period of time, it changes its face in many ways. Of course, it doesn't actually change the look, the moon does not change up in the sky. However, our perception of it and the light that is reflected onto it does, right? And so, with that, and as that being the sort of planetary association with Cancer, we can interpret that as like Cancerian people or ones that have a lot of those traits had these kind of passing moods or cyclical moods in the same way that the moon changes phases all the time. So perhaps in like negative moments, that could be like strong imagination with like goes like kind of ruminating or anxiety about the home or bank account. Again, the bank account is a kind of collection of money, and collecting again falls under Cancer. And says, and in fact, all of this tends to make people that again have the sort of Cancerian traits within them, which we all do, but just to different extents, that might make them prone to ulcers, which again is a problem of the stomach, which is what Cancer is ruled by. They can be shy and sensitive, easily influenced with kindness and sympathy, fearing criticism and needing security. And again, often that is exemplified in the sort of like security of the home. And again, it doesn't have to be like your literal home, like the material of your house or where you live. It could also be, again, like your neighborhood, your localness, your community, whatever that kind of like security of home might look like for you. And again, the symbol for Cancer is the crab. When we think about crabs, right, this provides several strong clues to the temperament of Cancer. So the crab in nature is like a crustacean, right? Means it has soft inside surrounded by a hard shell. Again, if you've ever seen or eaten crab, you will know this. And so in this sense, Cancer is a crustacean in the same way. So because of all of that emotion, the wateriness of Cancer and that sign and sensitivity, Cancer signs or those that have a lot of Cancer in their birth chart or when Cancer is present, right? We are moving into Cancer season right now, which is why we're talking about this. So this might be a time where we feel the need to build an outer shell of some sort, right? Having these kind of like can give the world an impression that you're hard or sort of like cold in these ways, whereas nothing could be further from the truth. Like crabs or a Cancer person rarely approaches anything directly. They might sidle up to it, crab-like, right? Crabs do kind of do like sideways walking, with some hesitation. If we, scare a crab, they'll retreat and hide in their home or under some rock, right, into that safe space of their shell. And it says they're apt to become crab-like in another sense and be crabby, right? Which is another word we have for kind of like annoyed, frustrated, upset. Um, it says the Cancer child might likely be a crybaby in their earlier years, with all that emotion inside requiring some sort of release. What's more, they are sensitive and easily hurt. As they grow older, they will learn to love their home, again, often preferring to bring their friends to their home rather than go to someone else's. Again, because that home, that localness, that space was where you have all of your things, where you feel the most comfort, safety, and security. And that's a very Cancerian trait. They may have vivid imagination and be very likely to invent, perhaps like have. Um, Make believe friends or have sort of like lots of daydreaming or drive says their parents to distraction with make believe playmates. Um, they should be taught to reason intellectually as soon as possible, but they are best disciplined by appealing to their feelings rather than logic. So, again, folks that have a lot of Cancer in their chart, again, when they don't feel safe, may often put up this wall and not allow folks to get too close to them or become too vulnerable. But actually, right, the thing that kind of like heals the Cancerian parts of ourselves is actually learning how to like tune into our intuition and to follow that a bit more and let our feelings, our gut, right? Again, gut as being that kind of stomach association that is associated with Cancer. Um, that actually we should lead with feelings and emotion and not try to lead with logic, which is again maybe as as a Cancer or as someone that has a lot of Cancer in their chart, they may be prone to, again, trying to ignore that, perhaps because, again, they were considered sensitive or a crybaby as a child, where actually, like, the most healing thing is to be in touch with those emotions because actually they're giving you a lot of information. Um, yeah, so we're doing a bit more of a deep dive into the signs. And again, as we talk about these, everyone has every zodiac sign within them. Some of us have, if you look at your birth chart, the literal chart, it will tell you what houses you have each sign in, right? So there's this sort of, so like Cancer is associated with the fourth house, but in your own birth chart, it may be in a different house, and that may be how it manifests in that way of what you like to nurture or, yeah, where you feel most safe. That might be like in your workplace, or it might be in like grief work or death dueling. It just kind of depends on where it is in your chart. Um, yeah, and so that can also be very interesting to look at. So if you've never pulled up your birth chart, you can usually find just like search birth chart and usually you can find online somewhere, at least where you can see it for free as the actual like chart itself, which usually is like a circle divided into 12 houses. And then it shows where each planet was and all of those things, the asteroids were what the moment you were born. So you do need the location or city where you were born, as well as the time of day that you were born to know that exact moment of birth where everything was in the sky. That is what we call a birth chart. Um, is basically just saying like what was that place in time, um, and the impact that we think that that has on people's lives. Um, yeah, so let's get back into the tarot side of things. So again, ruled Cancer is the crab, ruled by the moon. It is this cardinal water ruler associated with the moon, which is also that wateriness, just like the moon card is in tarot. So when we get into the major arcana cards, we actually have Cancer is associated with the Chariot. And I do want to read a bit about that. And then the moon, so we have each sign has like right, Cancer has a card that's associated with it. And then because Cancer is associated with the moon also actually has a card associated with it. And it is not the moon in tarot. So while that in tarot has a similar quality to how we think about the moon, the planet, Cancer's actually, or the moon's actually associated with the High Priestess. So again, Cancer associated with motherhood, home, family, the ability to nurture and be nurtured, and intuition. Cancer's association with the Chariot. So the Chariot card corresponds to Cancer, again, the sign of motherhood, home, and family life. At first glance, the sign doesn't seem to have much in common with the adventurous spirit of the Chariot card, right? The Chariot is kind of seen as like an airy, fiery card, high flying charioteer, especially it says, like, look again, though, and you'll discover that the high flying charioteer never leaves her home or family for long. And I'm reading this information from the Tarot and Astrology book I mentioned earlier. It says the typical Cancer individual is far more like the charioteer than you might expect. After all, the first charioteers traveled in an early version of a mobile home. Both Cancer and the charioteer are also remarkably resourceful, intuitive, and protective, all valuable resources for the traveler on the go. In almost every version of the card, the charioteers are adventurers, but their quests have a practical purpose. Some are warriors determined to protect and defend their communities. Some travel for the sake of business and trade in order to make a better life for their families. And some journey in pursuit of knowledge and experience to make new connections with people in other parts of the world. No matter where they travel, however, the Cancerian charioteers bring a little piece of home along for the ride, which again, if we think about Cancer, the animal, or the crab, right? They get to carry their house along with them. Says in most versions of the card, the chariot is itself a home away from home. In the Wizard's Tarot, which they reference in this book, the chariot is a broom, a staple tool of hearth and home, and a must for proper homemaking. The glyph for Cancer looks like a crab's claw, and both Cancer and the charioteer can be defensive. The crab's hard outer shell provides a tough, nearly impenetrable barrier between the dangers of the outside world and the vulnerable creature inside. Crabs also scuttle sideways when they move. They rarely move in direct course. They even put out feelers to sense the direction they should travel. When they sense danger, they lash out with sharp, pinching claws that can maim those who threaten or torment. And because they're water creatures, Cancerians are sensitive and intuitive. They're moody, just as the moon changes from day to day and the tides rise and fall in response. They can be wildly responsive to fluctuations in the environment around them. They can be possessive and overly protective as well. Overall, however, Cancers are sensitive, kind, gentle, imaginative, affectionate, and nurturing. Cancer is the fourth sign of the zodiac year. It rules the fourth house of the zodiac, where astrologers look for clues about home and family life, as well as nurturing influences. Cancer, in turn, is ruled by the moon, the planet of reflection, intuition, and inspiration. The moon is assigned to the High Priestess card, which is a good fit as she represents those same qualities. The sun is in Cancer between about June 22nd to July 23rd every year. The start of the sign on the summer solstice is also the first day of summer, at least in the northern hemisphere. This makes it a cardinal sign of leadership and new beginnings. Both the sign and the chariot card represent leaders who aren't afraid to dive into new experiences and adventures. Cancer is also a water sign, and just as astrology, just like tarot, the element of water symbolizes emotional energy. Cancer rules the breasts and stomach, which clearly indicates a mother's lifelong role as a nurturing presence in her children's lives. For most mothers, feeding their children is a primary part of their job, first by nursing their children as infants and later by filling their stomachs with home-cooked meals. And again, we don't need to prescribe to the heteronormative binary idea that just because you are a mother, that means that you are doing these specific things or that you are only in the home. But of course, it also embraces those aspects of self, and Cancer kind of uplifts those and says those are all really important. Nourishing other people, caregiving, helping shape children's lives. That's a very powerful thing to do as well. So the moon association is with the High Priestess. And the moon is the ruler of the night, the keeper of secrets, and the guardian of dreams. When she takes the form of the high priestess, the moon becomes a close and trusted confidant, able to help us understand the cycles of life and measure our responses to the ebb and flow of time. Tarot readers often recognize themselves in the high priestess. She is a mystic seated at the gateway between this world and the next. She knows the secrets of the universe, but she shares them only with the wise. Most depictions of the High Priestess include some type of lunar imagery. In the Wizard's Tarot, which they reference in the book, the High Priestess reads cards by the guiding light of the full moon. She wears a headpiece made up of the waxing, full, and crescent moons, as well as the gleaming moon-like pearls. And in fact, the High Priestess is the embodiment of the moon, the luminous orb of reflection and intuition. If she seems to represent the goddess in the process, that's no accident. In ancient Greece, Selene was the goddess of the moon. She would rise from the oceans each night, freshly bathed and crowned with a crescent moon. In ancient Rome, she was Luna, Latin for moon, and the moon is constantly changing form, as moon goddesses often do. So the Greeks also knew her as Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, wild animals, wilderness, childbirth, women, and girls. And the Romans knew Artemis by the name Diana. The moon is almost always paired with the sun. Some cultures consider the two luminaries brother and sister, while others refer to them as husband and wife. In either case, they are a primordial couple, and their heavenly partnership symbolizes the constant give between and take between the light and the dark. Action and reaction, the divine masculine and feminine, radiance and reflection, and the conscious and subconscious mind. In fact, from our vantage point on Earth, the moon and sun seem to be the same size. Like Selene and Helios, Luna and Sol, or Diana and Apollo, they are a cosmic pair, equal in size and engaged in the perpetual race through the heavens. Where the sun is masculine and active, the moon is feminine and receptive. The moon doesn't generate light and heat of its own. Instead, it reflects the light of the sun, changing and adapting each day as it orbits around the Earth. Just as the moon reflects the sun's light, it also reflects our unconscious needs and desires. Because the moon is shrouded in shadows and darkness, it represents secrets and mysteries that may not be understood or even recognized. The moon symbolizes the rocky landscape of memory and feeling, brilliantly illuminated when the moon is full, but dark and shadowy when her face is hidden from view. The moon reflects our fears and insecurities, as well as our desires for nurturing and safety. It describes our sensitivities, our inborn responses to emotional triggers, our instinctive responses to threats, and our immediate reactions to predatory behavior. It can relate to early childhood memories, the past, and longings for a better, more perfect life. Astrologically, the moon symbolizes the depths of personality. It has ties to memories, mood, and motherhood, along with corresponding issues of fertility, rhythms, and the need to nurture our creations. The moon rules Cancer, the sign of home and family. It also rules the fourth house of the zodiac, where modern astrologers look for information about childhood, motherhood, and nurturing. The moon rules the breast, stomach, ovaries, and womb, a reminder of the nurturing power expressed through mother's milk and comfort food. And the moon also card corresponds to the element of water. So again, all of these things lining up in this way. And yeah, the high priestess, just like the moon, represents cycles, reflection. The glyph for that looks like a crescent moon. And again, often in the high priestess card, like they said, we see a lunar imagery. It is the feminine symbol, and the moon can represent mothers or motherhood. So let's get into the court cards. So the court card is associated with Cancer and the wheel of the year are in here. So we have the Queen of Cups, which if you remember, if you've been listening to all my zodiac episodes or zodiac season episodes, the court cards, they always have one overlapping card from the prior sign, and then they have one overlapping with the future sign. So we have the Queen of Cups, which was also relevant in Taurus. No, in Gemini season. And then we have the King of Wands, which starts to move us into Leo season. And again, cups, of course, and the Queen are associated with that kind of like nurturing emotion, like High Priestess sort of energy of the court cards. And then we have the King of Wands associated with fire and kings as well. Being sort of the ruler of this sort of shift into Leo energy where we're like burning a bit brighter. We sort of emphasize that level of leadership associated with kings in tarot. I did want to read a bit about Cancer and the Queen of Cups. So in this, they call it the maternal devotion of cardinal water. And then we have Leo and the King of Wands. So the Queen of Cups embodies the pure blend of water with the emotional depth of the cups cards, giving her, in essence, like water and water associations. So Queen's already associated with water, and cups are as well. So Queen of Cups means double water. The Queen of Cups also represents the cardinal water sign of Cancer, makes her a natural homemaker and caretaker. She's usually pictured in a watery world of love and relationships because she embodies the emotional energy of the Suit of Cups. So again, grab your nearest tarot deck and take a look at your Queen of Cups card. It says, her maternal gifts make her more powerful than many people realize. Cardinal signs are decisive leaders. She knows better than most that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Like her major arcana counterpart, the Charioteer, she navigates through a realm of dangerous currents and tides, and she usually manages to steer clear of rocky reefs and shorelines. She effortlessly balances marriage and family life. The Queen of Cups is artistic and creative, and also remarkably intuitive. At times, she may be prone to psychic prophecies, mystical visions inspired by her ruling planet of the moon. The moon, just like her, has a dark side, so those who are caught in her wake can sometimes find themselves drowning in the eddies of her emotions. At times, she can be overprotective or even smothering. The Queen of Cups rules the third decan of Gemini, so again, that's the overlap from the prior season, and then the first and second decans of Cancer. So each sign gets kind of broken up into about 3 to 4 weeks of time. And so, the first part of when we're in Cancer season is that association with Gemini, and and then we move into is with Cancer, and then we move into the Leo correspondence as we move towards the King of Wands. Let's see. Whereas the King of Wands, again, is more of that fire, has fixed fire with Leo. And so I'll talk about that card more next time when we're in Leo season. And so kings, I think, are associated with air. So then when we have the King of Wands, we have air plus fire, which, right, we have this, that's how combustion happens. So Leo season can feel like this, again, combustion of ideas, of moving forward, of action, of like kind of explosive energy in that way. So when we look at the minor arcana, right, we've talked about major arcana, we've talked about the court card associations, and now we're getting into the minor arcana cards. They're always in a row, and just as you may have predicted, they are cups cards. So we start out with that first June 21st-ish until July 1st, we have the associated with the Two of Cups, which is its planetary ruler is Venus. When we move into July 2nd through the 11th, that is with the Three of Cups, and with an association of Mercury, or a sub-ruler of Mercury. And then for the Four of Cups, for that final section of Cancer season, July 12th through 21st-ish, it's actually associated with the moon, with the Four of Cups and the moon. So we also have these planetary sub-rulers, Venus, Mercury, and the moon. So much moon energy, right? The water, the cup signs, the lunar aspects on the major arcana card of the High Priestess, and then also even that the Four of Cups has this association with the moon as well. So it does go in here through every single card. Maybe I'll read the Four of Cups ones because I was just talking about that. So the Four of Cups, or the moon in Cancer, is called the Lord of Blended Pleasure. The moon, again, natural ruler of Cancer, so the High Priestess is in her dignity here. You might want to give her some space, though, as both the ruler and sub-ruler of the sign. The Four of Cups gets a double dose of lunar energy, right, as we were just talking about. It says at least once a month, the moon needs to go into hiding to decompress and shake off the emotions she's picked up in her travels around the zodiac. As the High Priestess, a natural psychic and empath, she spends most of her time reflecting and absorbing energy and emotions from everyone around her. In Cancer, the sign of sensitivity and self-protection, the moon can rebuild her strength, recharge her battery, tend to any cracks in her crab shell, and reattune herself to the rhythms and cycles of the natural world. And then she can kind of resume her route as the guiding light for the traveling charioteer. So again, the Golden Dawn designers of this card called the moon in Cancer the Lord of Blended Pleasure because it usually illustrates the quick changing moods of the moon in her own sign. Give Cancer some time and she'll eventually put on a happy face. So again, so that's kind of what the last part of Cancer season is going to be associated with, right? So it's going to be this kind of, maybe we're going internally, right? We're maybe being in our home or in our internal self, or reflecting. We're maybe cleansing ourselves of energy that we've picked up from being around a lot of other people, and being kind of sensitive to that. And we're needing to recharge our battery before before we move into Leo season, where we're going to have the combustion, the explosion aspect. So as we start in this first week of Cancer, right, this association is with the Two of Cups in Cancer, which is the sort of lovers card. Of the cups, it says that the young lovers in the Two of Cups seem a little starstruck. It's no accident powerful forces have drawn them together. Venus, the planet of love and romance, which is the Two of Cups association or planetary sub-ruler, has made her way into the nurturing sign of Cancer, and she's playing matchmaker. Again, often if you look at the Two of Cups, there is this sort of give and take energy, this sort of lovers, again, imagery. And it says the young couple in the card could very well be an adolescent version of a charioteer in training and a girl who will someday assume the Empress's throne. Venus is the planet of pleasure and attraction, and her counterpart in the tarot is the Empress, who's has that loving mother energy, and then that's attuned to the energy of Cancer in that home and family life in the fourth house. And Venus rules the fixed earth sign of Taurus. So there is also this level of comfort and stability that true love and partnership can bring. Again, often the Two of Cups is depicting this kind of partnership, some entwinement as well. It says you can light a few candles, play love songs in the background, and let nature take its course. The two lovers and the Two of Cups, or the young lovers and the Two of Cups cards, are often depicted in the first blush of romance. Here in the first decan of what is arguably the most sentimental sign, their affection for each other seems especially wholesome and pure, innocent and uncorrupted by time or experience. They are opposites, but opposites attract, and they meet in the middle. The Golden Dawn designers of this card called Venus in Cancer the Lord of Love because it illustrates the sweetness and purity of true love. And again, this minor arcana cards of Cancer corresponds to the Chariot and its ruling planet, the lunar High Priestess. The connection tells us that for now, the young couple is protected by a mother's love, but that safeguard won't last forever. Over time, they'll gain wisdom and experience as their affection for each other is tested and both people grow and mature. Most of us learn along the way that experience comes at a cost, and early relationships often leave us sadder but wiser. In a tarot reading, the Two of Cups often represents love, especially between childhood sweethearts, kindred spirits, and soulmates. It symbolizes equal partnership and the attraction of opposites. And the first decan of Cancer usually falls between about June 21st and July 1st, when the sun is between 0 and 10 degrees Cancer. All right. That was a lot of reading and chatting, so I'll end there for today. Let's go ahead and dive in and see what the cards have to say. What else can we learn from Cancer, from the crab glyph, the following our gut feeling, the High Priestess and Charioteer, some of my most favorite cards. I know for me, as I'm reading this, I'm a Cancer rising sign, which means Cancer, and that sign. So the moon was like rising as I was born. I believe that's what that would mean. And so I highly relate to a lot of this aspect. Talking about Cancer, I also, I would say the Chariot and the High Priestess are perhaps my favorite major arcana cards. I also like the moon card and the Hermit a lot, but I definitely feel like I'm in my High Priestess Chariot part of life. I used to pull a Chariot card a lot, like maybe like 2 years ago now. All the time. I even dressed up as a Chariot card when I went to my therapist who tarot retreat. So that will tell you how much I like that card. Okay, well, I had a card fly out. So I pulled the King of Swords in reverse. Oh, this is funny. So 4 cards came out, almost all of which I think I pulled the other day in our last episode, because I got the 10 of Cups, this time upright, the 6 of Swords reverse, and the Page of Swords reverse. And I was just watching a video today talking about how to read reversals. And so I'm going to employ some of those aspects today as I pull these. Just got to find my PDF I'm pulling from the Snag Tarot that I've been pulling from a lot. And I'll actually go ahead and share my screen here so you all can see. All right, so we're going first to the King of Swords. Let's see here. I like the 2-page view. Okay. Cups, Swords. So King of Swords. So upright, authority, logic, structure, intellectual power, clear thinking, strong judgment, right? Decisions based on reason. And so when we think about, it says clarity is a tool and how you apply it matters. So this is very much like, again, thinking about swords are the air sign association, and the king is also air. So I think this is like a double air. King of Swords would be air. So thinking about it in reverse, I feel like from this discussion, I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is saying that we should be following our feelings and not just the like logic or decisions just based off of reason. We should be checking in with ourselves. So yeah, when I was watching this video, this was on the Biddy Tarot, about reversals and how to read them. They talked about like 4 different ways to read them. Okay, well, one of it was they talked about kind of like the internal aspect. So seeing it, okay, if the upright is, we're talking about external things. So again, maybe like taking action with the King of Swords, right? Like viewing something, making a decision based off of like talking to other people, leadership. Again, like using data, perhaps like finding that clarity. And so thinking about it in reverse would be actually maybe you need to check in with yourself about that decision, and that even if it makes perhaps logical sense or the data says one thing, there might be something that your intuition is saying that is just as important to know. Yeah, so that's kind of what's coming up for this one for me. And then hilariously, right, I pulled the 10 of cups, which is right next to it. In this version of their guidebook, which upright emotional fulfillment, harmony, lasting happiness, right? Like a very quintessential watery Cancerian card pull, right? Often depicts this kind of like loving family bond. Tens are about kind of like attainment, right? Like reaching the thing that you've always wanted, the lasting happiness, alignment, connection. And this one is upright, so we'll kind of stick with that. It says invites you to define happiness for yourself rather than relying on traditional ideas of what that should look like, right? So again, this is calling us to what's your ultimate vision of that kind of like lasting happiness and fulfillment. Even if it doesn't look like other people's, like how are you achieving this version of your own emotional fulfillment. So it sounds like it's kind of like a time of celebration, right? Like what is the thing you've been working towards um, that is being fulfilled or it, like has been being fulfilled here? Okay, and then I also pulled the Six of Swords, this also in reverse. So upright, this would be about transition, moving, right? We see her kind of crying, this sort of grief. We see the rain in the background, also kind of that crying, sadness, leaving something behind, difficulty behind. Says the Six of Swords represents a gradual movement away from something difficult. May not feel like a clean break, but there's a sense of heading towards something calmer, right? So we're slowly, right? If a 5 is kind of we're in the middle ground, the thing has just shifted. A 6 is like we're on our way, right? It might change, might be slow or uneven, but we're moving forward in small steps. So if I think about again, sort of another way to view reversals, um, this would be that, so right, we had the kind of like internal, external discussion about the other one. One of the other ways that they talk about, you could read reversals are to look at the imagery of the card if you look at it upside down. So like use the actual imagery. So right, if we turned this upside down, it would look like the swords were kind of like falling out of the ground into the sky. I would say, and then we also see these like tears or rain that again is kind of like falling from the ground to the sky instead of obviously what we would see in the upright version of it. So yeah, it almost to me feels like this. We felt kind of grounded in whatever was going on, right? That like, and that now as we are moving forward, we're feeling a bit unmoored, right? If again, you think about rain moving from the ground to the sky or the swords falling out of the ground to the sky. It is kind of this like free falling feeling. And so maybe right now it's like, okay, yeah, I'm like moving on, but all of these things that were in place are kind of like falling apart and I don't really know right where they're going to land right now or that maybe right those hardships they're all those swords are falling out of the ground and now they're like falling upwards, right? They're leaving you, but again if you think about pulling 6 swords out of something, especially if it was like a body or something, it's like yeah, it's going to be a lot of holes. There's a lot left from there. Right. So maybe there's also this wound that needs to be kind of bandaged, right, or dealt with. And again, like healing can also be a slow process, right? But we are moving forward, right? It's really hard to heal when the sword is still in us. But once it's out, right, we may have that, like, again, the free flow of blood to get kind of morbid with it. But again, now you can like clean the wound and move forward. And then finally, I pulled the Page of Swords. So we're all up in the swords today. The page is here, and this one is also in reverse. So upright, this is about curiosity, right? The page being kind of like the intern I always think of. So it's not like, ooh, I have all these ideas, right? If we're thinking about the swords suit, oh, I have ideas and I want to do all these things. Alert, questioning, learning, gathering info, trying to understand a situation more clearly, curiosity, right? But stay open, ask questions, and avoid rushing to conclusions. So just being this very like open-minded, right? Again, if the intern is like kind of like eager, excited to learn and like absorb, and then we have the swords as the kind of like intellect, right? Communication, ideas, then this is this very like eagerness to learn level. So if we think about this one in reverse, the other two ways are you're having too much or too little. So that's another way to read reversals. So with the Page of Swords, that could be right, you are either ignoring some information, right? Kind of the like too little, or you're not being curious about something, or perhaps like you're so eager to learn that maybe you're not checking in with your gut. Maybe you are, again, like rushing to conclusions, or you're kind of believing something from someone else without really verifying that that information is accurate. So that would be one way to read it. So, or the Page of Swords reversed. It could be saying how, like, something you're getting blocked energetically about this. So again, perhaps you are looking to learn and gather info and you've been trying to do that, but something, right, the Page of Swords in reverse is saying like, we need to be aware that there might be something that is blocking you. That could be, right, again, in particular, when I think about like learning or gathering info, that could be money, right? Oh, I want to really learn this thing. I want to take this new course, but right now I'm feeling blocked in the fact that I feel like I can't commit to that, or I don't have the financial means to do it. And so, right, this card upright would be encouraging us to like, what other ways can I do it, right? How can I stay open? Maybe that's not the program for me, but maybe something new is going to come in that will be helpful, that will actually fit within my budget, that might be even better than I could have imagined. And so that kind of got to make sure we're not the rushing to conclusions aspect of just saying like, oh, I wanted to do this thing and now it's not possible and I'm so annoyed. Um, yeah. All right. So that's all of our all of our many cards that I pulled today. I'm going to stop sharing now so you can see me before we head out. So yeah, that was our collective reading for the week, and it was pretty long with 4 cards that fell out. I'm going to be heading over to Patreon right now to draw a clarifying card, especially for around that like blockages and how to overcome them. In particular, around that Page of Swords card, like how can we work on that blockage? If you want to see the card and what it like, see what the blockage or how to overcome it this week and what it means for your energy, you can check out the Patreon link below and join us for the rest of the reading. What to expect coming up. Weekly episodes always out on Mondays. I put out guest episodes about once a month. Every episode is recorded on video, which you can check out on Spotify and YouTube right now. And you can check out the audio wherever you get your podcasts. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, you can fill out my guest inquiry form, which will be linked in the show notes. Links for the decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and for free on my blog on Patreon if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Tune in every Monday to check out the latest episode. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, and more. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.